In the annals of American legal history, few cases have gripped the world like the trial of O.J. Simpson. A celebrated athlete turned murder suspect, Simpson's trial was a perfect storm of celebrity, race, and riveting courtroom drama. The proceedings not only challenged public perceptions, but also forced the justice system to explore uncharted territory in handling media and racial complexities. As the cameras rolled, everyone watched, waiting for the moment that would redefine their understanding of justice. Welcome to Court Decoded. Today we dissect the O.J. Simpson trial, one of the most iconic legal battles of the 20th century. This case was more than a murder trial. It was a crucible of racial tensions, media frenzy, and the power of celebrity. Join us as we unravel the legal strategies that shaped this monumental trial, leaving a lasting impact on the American legal landscape. It was the night of June 12, 1994, when the bodies of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were discovered outside her condominium in the affluent neighborhood of Brentwood, Los Angeles. This gruesome scene set the stage for what would become a highly publicized investigation. Nicole Brown Simpson, the ex-wife of football legend O.J. Simpson, was found brutally murdered alongside her friend, Goldman. The crime scene was drenched in blood, and evidence quickly pointed towards a personal and violent altercation. The media descended upon the scene, and the narrative began to form. A narrative filled with intrigue due to O.J. Simpson's status as a beloved sports icon and celebrity. Yet, beneath the glamour and tragedy of Hollywood's elite lay the stark reality of a double homicide investigation. As detectives combed through evidence, what they found was a perplexing puzzle of bloodstains, gloves, and a footpath marked with a single set of footprints. This discovery coalesced into the perfect storm of legal, racial, and media components, foreshadowing a trial that would not only captivate but also divide a nation. As the investigation progressed, the evidence increasingly pointed towards O.J. Simpson. On June 17, 1994, Simpson was scheduled to turn himself in to the authorities, but instead, he fled in a now infamous white Ford Bronco. This televised chase, spanning across freeways with thousands watching, marked the beginning of public obsession with the trial. Simpson's televised slow-speed chase was more than a pursuit. It represented the intersection of fame and infamy. It culminated in his surrender at his Brentwood estate, transforming a sports hero into a prime murder suspect. The prelude to the trial itself was a spectacle, as media outlets assembled to scrutinize every detail. The judicial system prepared for a landmark case, with Judge Lance Ito presiding, and both the prosecution and defense assembling formidable teams. The prosecution, led by Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden, faced off against what became known as the Dream Team, Simpson's defense, which included renowned attorneys like Robert Shapiro, Johnny Cochran, and F. Lee Bailey. The stage was set, and the courtroom would now play host to a dramatic battle of legal minds. Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden crafted a prosecution strategy centered on forensic evidence. They believed in the overwhelming power of science to convict. The key pieces were the blood evidence allegedly linking Simpson to the crime scene, supplemented by DNA analyses that were groundbreaking at the time. The prosecution's case hinged on presenting a narrative built on technology and logic, aiming to convince the jury of O.J. Simpson's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. However, their task was not merely assembling facts, but also contending with the growing sentiment that perceived Simpson as a victim of racial bias. Their challenge was exacerbated by the defense's unwavering attacks on the credibility of the LAPD, which they accused of manipulating evidence. Additionally, the cultural climate required them to navigate racial nuances expertly, as the LAPD was under scrutiny for its history of racial discrimination. Despite these challenges, the prosecution persisted, confident in the meticulous presentation of their evidence. Yet, they soon discovered the Herculean task of transforming concrete scientific evidence into a compelling and persuasive narrative capable of influencing a jury with diverse, preconceived notions. The defense, guided by Johnny Cochran, employed a strategy that was as much about legal acumen as it was about storytelling. Cochran's infamous phrase, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit," became iconic, encapsulating the defense's approach to casting doubt. The defense systematically dismantled the prosecution's reliance on forensic evidence by attacking the credibility and integrity of the collection process. They alleged police misconduct, painting a picture of incompetence and bias that resonated with broader societal issues of the time. Cochran's oratory skills transformed the courtroom into more than a mere setting for legal debate. It became a platform to challenge national narratives on race, power, and justice. The defense cast doubt on the authenticity of the bloody glove and questioned the validity of DNA evidence, a relatively new science at the time. This strategy of casting reasonable doubt reached its zenith when Cochran famously demonstrated the glove, arguing it was improbably tight on Simpson's hand. This theatrical move, paired with arguments that racial prejudice had tainted both the evidence and its interpretation, contributed significantly to how the jury would ultimately view the evidence presented. Forensics played a pivotal role, with DNA evidence considered the crown jewel of the prosecution's case. The trial occurred at a time when public understanding of DNA was burgeoning. The prosecution introduced blood evidence linking Simpson to the crime scene and the victims. However, the defense seized upon doubts over its handling. The LAPD's perceived credibility issues, exacerbated by prior scandals, lent even more weight to their claims that the evidence was compromised. Allegations of contamination and sample mishandling raised the stakes, prompting a national debate on the reliability of forensic techniques. Furthermore, the defense questioned the chain of custody, arguing inconsistencies and mishaps invalidated the prosecution's conclusions. This strategic scrutiny on the emergence of DNA as irrefutable evidence introduced a broader discourse on forensic infallibility, compelling both media and public to reconsider the presumed neutrality of scientific data. The courtroom drama conveyed a broader message that even the most sophisticated forensic evidence is vulnerable to human error and contextual interpretation. The media played an unignorable role in crafting the public's perception during the O.J. Simpson trial. In an era bustling with emerging 24-hour news cycles, the trial was broadcast live, turning the courtroom proceedings into daily entertainment. The intense media coverage not only informed but also influenced, creating a pervasive and often intrusive environment that blurred the lines between facts and sensationalism. Journalists dissected every nuance, from courtroom theatrics to whispered conversations, in an incessant stream of commentary that both entertained and overwhelmed. The trial became a soap opera, with its own characters, dramas, and cliffhangers. The media's focus on race, gender, and celebrity magnified its societal implications, reflecting and amplifying the existing divisions within society. The unprecedented exposure and access allowed millions worldwide to feel as though they were part of the jury, with opinions forming independently of the actual trial findings. This coverage highlighted the evolving relationship between the legal system and media, setting a precedent for future high-profile cases where public opinion became an integral facet of legal strategy. The O.J. Simpson trial occurred at a pivotal moment in American history, amidst heightened racial tensions. The Los Angeles riots, only 2 years prior, had starkly revealed societal fissures, and Simpson's case reopened these wounds. Public perception was keenly divided along racial lines, influencing how evidence and testimonies were interpreted. For many African Americans, Simpson symbolized a figure unfairly prosecuted by a predominantly white justice system. This sentiment was fueled further by the defense's narrative of police misconduct and racial prejudice. The trial highlighted issues of systemic racism, transforming the legal proceedings into a proxy battle over racial justice. For communities of color, the trial was more than a quest for truth about a crime. It was a referendum on police practices and institutional bias. In contrast, some perceived the trial as an indictment of celebrity privilege, where a wealthy figure could escape accountability. This intense public scrutiny and racial dialogue shaped the courtroom dynamics, suggesting that in cases intertwined with societal issues, justice is inherently more complex than mere legal outcomes. On October 3, 1995, after 133 days of proceedings and 4 hours of deliberation, the jury delivered a not guilty verdict. The decision was met with gasps of shock, cheers, and cries of disbelief, reflecting the stark division in public opinion. In Los Angeles, the streets buzzed with excitement, while elsewhere, others mourned what they perceived as a miscarriage of justice. The verdict encapsulated the intersection of race, celebrity, and media influence, highlighting the complexities inherent in high-profile trials. For some, the decision was a vindication of African American communities' long-standing critiques of systemic oppression and legal bias. For others, it was a glaring instance of money and fame overshadowing accountability. The trial and its outcome had far-reaching consequences, prompting introspection within the justice system regarding media involvement, forensic reliability, and racial dynamics. The case's conclusion became a fulcrum around which discussions of justice and morality pivoted, significantly influencing how future trials were conducted and perceived by the public. The O.J. Simpson verdict, while definitive in the courtroom, continues to echo through American society. The jury's decision to acquit raised questions about the efficacy of forensic science in the face of public perception and systemic bias. It underscored the reality that legal outcomes can diverge sharply from public opinion, and highlighted how deeply ingrained societal narratives influence even the most straightforward evidentiary conclusions. The trial ushered in a new era of media-oriented legal battles, where the court of public opinion can hold as much sway as the legal one. It also spotlighted the necessity for the justice system to address and adapt to racial and socioeconomic disparities that influence case proceedings and outcomes. The enduring legacy of the Simpson trial lies not just in its verdict, but in its ability to expose the multifaceted intersections of law, race, and media. A reminder that the pursuit of justice is as much about societal introspection as legal adjudication. Thank you for joining Court Decoded as we unpacked the O.J. Simpson trial. We invite you to subscribe for more explorations of monumental legal cases that have shaped our world. Share your thoughts on this case in the comments below. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed the deep dive into legal history. Until next time, stay informed and engaged.